Hi, I'm James with IGN, and I am here with Vince and Janito.
Hey man, what's up? How are you?
Very good. So you went to check out Turtle Rock Studios, and specifically the new content for the DLC coming to Evolve shortly.
Yes, that's right. So I went to, I was actually up at 2K, chilling out with some of the Turtle Rock guys, and I got to see the 4 new hunters. They are super rad, so interesting. This is really like, I feel like they've hit their stride. They know what their game is now, and they're just being super confident and going kind of way over over the top. With their
awesome.
characters.
And you also got to check out Behemoth, but we're not going to talk about that. That's another video.
Nope, that's another video. But,
which I want to plug. It's an awesome video. So I guess let's jump right into it. And as you can see behind us, there's Batman with a crow, and this character's name is actually Crow.
Yeah. Yep.
And he is the Trapper coming to the new DLC. So why don't you tell us what his deal is? Because he seems like a weird dude.
Super interesting abilities. So he's a perfect example of how they're kind of doing new things that they've never done with any of the characters before. So his, obviously the Trapper's job is to find the monster, and to that end, he's got Gobi, his pet bat ray, who you can see standing there on his hand. So with Gobi, you bring him out and you throw him, and he'll go up to 200 meters in a direction, and kind of with a sonar pack, he will kind of paint the outlines of any wildlife or the monster that's
kind of like
range.
a dust tagging.
Kind of like a dust tag does, exactly. Except you can just keep using it over and over. Like you throw him out, it shows everything in a range, and then he comes back, and you can toss him right back out, and in any direction, as long as he doesn't hit something, you'll see it. So it's great for those situations where you're right on the monster's tail, like maybe he alerts birds like 100 meters out or 150 meters out, and you want to know where he's heading, like you throw out Gobi, and Gobi just will sniff him out for you.
And then his primary and secondary weapon have kind of a similar mechanic in the sense that they're both semi-automatic, and you can do kind of a smaller, just tap the trigger shot, or you can do a charge-up shot. So why don't you tell me about the kinetic long rifle and the stasis gun, which sounds very interesting.
These are the first 2 weapons in Evolve that have 2 firing modes. Like no other gun for them has done that. So the stasis gun works a lot like, it applies the same stasis that Abe's grenades do, except he can just shoot the monster to make it happen. So if you just tap rapidly, you'll get like a quick spray of bullets, and each of those will stun will stasis the monster for like a minute. For like a second. That would be crazy. My God, a minute. For about a second, maybe 2 seconds. So you charge up though and hit him with it. It's about 10 seconds, so it's plenty of time to charge up, hit him with a shot, and then swap out to your kinetic rifle.
The charge doesn't take that long, does it?
No, it doesn't. Like maybe a second. Right. Yeah, maybe a second.
So it's just about kind of committing to that skill shot, and then you get a massive reward for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then you switch back to the long rifle, and you can go to town. And the cool thing with the long rifle is, again, if you want the optimal damage per second, you can just keep tapping really fast. Right. But if you do a charge-up shot with the long rifle, it does a shot that completely ignores armor, which is crazy. Like,
if you go back to our review discussion we had about this game, we called this that there would be some kind of armor-piercing weaponry.
And here it is.
Of course, we were right.
Of course we were.
There we go.
So here it is, and it's great. So when you're facing off, like say Behemoth or Goliath, a character that's got like huge armor reserves, you say, forget it, I'm just going right past that and going into real health. And of course, that real health doesn't come back. Right. So you're dealing permanent damage from the beginning with this character. Which is pretty awesome. Yeah, pretty sick.
And of course he has the mobile arena just like any other Trapper. But we're gonna move on to Torvald, the Bionic Viking. That's not an official title, but when you see him, I think you'll agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's start off with his shotgun, because the shotgun is a weapon that is used in a lot of characters in Evolve. Yeah. Specifically with Parnell, it's an automatic shotgun. So his is called the auto fire shotgun. When you first see it, you're like, well, that kind of just looks like Parnell's, but it's totally not.
Right, it's not. So the thing with this shotgun is that it's automatic in the sense that you press the button once and that's it. The whole clip just gets used
emptied.
Up. Right? Yeah, just empties. Like bam, 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 bam. You can't stop that. You just fire the whole thing at once. So it forces you to pick a time when, like, okay, now is the time when I can hit him with the whole volley, so now I use it. Otherwise, like a monster that's on the move or about to leave your sight, you don't want to bother with it. So it's an interesting weapon, but his more interesting stuff is, first of all, he's got a shrapnel grenade. Right. He throws the grenade and it peppers the monster with little weak spots, kind of like the same ones that Lazarus can create with his sniper rifle. So there's the small mini weak spots that give you 50% extra damage.
So that has fantastic synergy with the shotgun.
Absolutely. You toss that while you're approaching, and then you lace into them with the shotgun. But what's really cool is that he's got this mortar, this hand targeted mortar cannon. The cannon's on his back, and he has a laser designator, and he just points where he wants it to be, and the cannon will take care of the rest, firing like a volley of 4 shells indirectly, so over obstacles at wherever you want. Huge damage on it.
And I have an immense hatred for Hank's orbital strike.
Yeah, no, we've had talks about that.
This is like totally all the things that I love about the orbital strike without some of the downfalls. Yeah. I mean, it does less damage, but it's tactical. It only fires like 3 or 4 mortars, so you don't have to like pepper the entire area. and like destroy your team and knock them back and all kinds of stuff. So
yeah,
I think it's awesome.
It's a much easier to use, much more disruptive, it's much easier to use, much less disruptive to your team and to your flow version of that ability.
That's fantastic. All right, so now let's talk about Sunny, who visually I think is very similar to some of the other characters, but the way she plays out is super awesome, and it's kind of, there's a theme here with the support, the trapper, as well as the medic, where they kind of have like a drone or a pet or something. Yeah. And she has the shield drone.
Yes, so she can basically throw out a drone on the ground that stays, it's stationary, but any hunters that come into that radius of effect around it, whoever's being fired on immediately, the drone will just project a shield around them. And the drone stays out indefinitely. It has a limit to its battery, how much it can shield someone, but even once its battery depletes, it'll just eventually, you know, build back up and it'll be able to do that again. And you can keep it there until either the monster destroys it or until you decide you want to relocate it.
Pretty awesome. Also, she has a mini nuke launcher, which for my money, is the coolest looking weapon aesthetically. Yeah. In both like the reload animation as well as the massive explosion it causes. It's pretty dope.
It hits really hard and it looks really pretty while it does it. And it's like Torvald's mortar. It's another example of a weapon that these hunters can use to really punish a monster who is over-focusing on one target and staying in one place.
And you said to me that she is perhaps the most supporty support because she has two weapons that totally support her support role. Yeah. And the second is the jetpack booster.
Yes, so she can fire the jetpack booster at her allies, and then basically their movement speed and their range are doubled, and all of their boosting is just off of the battery of her gun and not from their fuel. So she can like boost that trapper forward really fast to get that capture that he needs.
Last but not least is an alien or a bug named Slim, and he is, for my money, my absolute favorite medic because he's very combat focused. So why don't you kind of take us through his kit, starting with the leech gun? Yeah,
so the leech gun is the most important thing because it's got good damage per second, probably the most reliable damage per second of any of the medics. But the really key thing is that with every shot that he hits with it, it helps refresh his healing bursts, which is of course the universal medic ability. So he's like healing burst, fires maybe 3 or 4 shots, and then he can healing burst again. Right. So his whole thing is he wants to stay in the middle of his pack so that he can get them all with the healing burst and just keep lacing into that monster in order to sustain his people.
But that's not his only healing tool, he also has the healing drone.
Right. So the drone is like this little bug, and he can throw that bug to any one of his team members, even if they're on the other side of the map. It has unlimited range. Wow. And then it'll just stay with them and heal them to full until they get hit. So it's a great way to help someone who's out of combat, but if someone's in combat, it's not really an option.
And finally, the Spore Cloud Launcher, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, pretty funky. Again, an example of them doing something they've never done before. So basically, it fires a 40-meter, hits a 40-meter radius. In that radius, for like 6 seconds, if the monster's standing in it, he cannot smell. So he can't see health bars, he can't see outlines, he doesn't know who's who. He's just going off of sight, which if you've ever played the monster, you know is actually pretty hard because you're huge and you tower over everyone, and it's hard to actually make them out without the help of that aid. So it really is very disruptive and confusing for the monster.
All right, Vince, I have one more question for you. We've talked about all the hunters. All right. We've run down their kits. Now the question I want to ask you is about power creep. Yeah. Because they all seem very powerful. For those of you who don't know what power creep is, it's basically like, you know, in Magic the Gathering or any game that has a lot of expansions, they slowly get more and more powerful to incentivize you to purchase them. Right. Do you think that's the case here after kind of looking at and getting some hands-on time with the hunters?
So my initial thought was yes. I felt like they're ramping things up a little bit. Maybe these guys are a little bit too strong for what they are. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized it's really about ease of use. It's about giving these characters abilities that are very easy to get your a handle on, and they're easy to implement and use kind of all at once and be efficient with, so that there's an ease of use there. But really, honestly, at the higher end of things, like take Crow, for instance, his pet bat ray is easy to use in that I just throw it in the direction that I want to know where things are around there, and that's a lot more immediate than the other trapper's abilities. But the downside of it is that it doesn't have any really global reach, right? It's just like 200 meters in front of me right now for a couple of seconds. I can't track where the monster's moving across the entire map like I can with Daisy or with Maggie or with Griffin.
The sound spikes too, right?
Right, exactly, with sound spikes with Griffin. So, it's a trade-off. It's easy to use and it feels really powerful when you use it, but then when you really go over the nuts and bolts of it, it works out fine balance-wise. I mean, obviously it's too early to know. It's always too early to tell. We'll see what the players do with it when it comes out on the 31st. Awesome. But for now, I think it's in good place.
Great. Well, thank you so much for checking that stuff out, and thank you for letting us know. For all things Evolve and Batman, keep it right here on IGN.